We have our first key race alert of the night very, very early. Less than 1% of the vote is in, but you can take a look at the numbers that have just been announced. Bernie Sanders in first place with 28.8%. He's 98 votes ahead of Amy Klobuchar in second place with 25.7%. Pete Buttigieg, 18.6%. Elizabeth Warren, 13.1%. Joe Biden, 6.5%. Andrew Yang, 2.5%. Tulsi Gabbard, 2.4%. Tom Steyer, 2.3%. Remember, very, very early, less than 1% of the vote is in. Let's go to Concord and Dover. But first, Brian Todd, he's getting a readout on the results in Concord, New Hampshire. What are you learning, Brian?
Right, Wolf, the tabulator just put them out. The moderator, Jay Whitelaw, just read out the numbers. Here are the numbers from Ward 10 in Concord. We have to stress this is one of 10 wards in the city of Concord, New Hampshire, so not reflective of how the city's going to go or how the state's going to go, but here are the numbers from this ward. Amy Klobuchar does very well. She comes out with 419 votes. These are the numbers you're seeing on the left side of your screen from Ward 10 here in Concord. Amy Klobuchar with 419 votes, Pete Buttigieg with 337. Bernie Sanders in third with 289, Joe Biden in fourth with 141, Elizabeth Warren in fifth with 117, then Tom Steyer at 63, Tulsi Gabbard at 42, Andrew Yang at 32, write-in votes tallied 31, and Deval Patrick had 6. Again, Klobuchar with a very strong finish here in Ward 10. We had sampled voters coming out of the polls. She was giving Bernie Sanders a good run for his money, and it's evidenced here in this tally. They still have some write-in votes and others to count. Not many of those, Wolf, but Klobuchar coming out ahead here. All
right, one ward in Concord. Let's go over to Dover right now. Miguel Marquez, you've got a readout on one ward there.
A very specific readout. Looks like a grocery receipt. 1,926 votes cast in Ward 1 here. Here's the breakdown on the Democratic side, at least the top contenders. Bernie Sanders, 658 votes. Buttigieg, 317. Klobuchar, 201. Warren, 200 votes. Biden, 84. Yang, 50. Steyer, 47. Gabbard, 40. Bennett, 2. And there were 14 write-ins. Some of those were probably for Michael Bloomberg, as I spoke to a couple of his supporters today. They will hit around 50, 53, 54% turnout in this ward. We're going to try to figure out now how the other 5 wards in Dover did today. Wolf?
Very early, but very interesting numbers indeed. John King, you're looking closely at what the numbers are going to start coming in pretty rapidly. So far, very, very early.
Right, but they're starting to come in, which is fun. We're actually counting votes on election night. That's a fun thing. Senator Sanders with a very tiny lead. Everybody just strap in at home. Whatever you do to entertain yourself on election nights, strap in for a bit, because we're just getting started. But it is fun to see the votes come in. If you're Senator Sanders, you're ahead by 137 votes. If you're Senator Klobuchar, you were wondering, will that momentum turn into votes early on? Emphasis on very early on. That's the case. Let's go see. Now we just saw some new votes come in here. Let's just go up to Loudon here. This is the first time we've seen Pete Buttigieg on here, right? This is his color, the lighter green. Amy Klobuchar is the darker green. He's leading. This is probably just one ward here, 265 to 244 over Senator Sanders. I just want to go through an important point. If you were listening to Miguel Marquez just a moment ago, the numbers he read are these numbers. So the numbers that have been reported officially into the system and kicked out by the state were the numbers from his ward. They match up exactly. If you remember Brian Todd's numbers from Concord, this is different. So this is clearly a different ward in Concord. Amy Klobuchar still winning. She won again in this ward, so we have 2 of 10 wards coming in. So just want to make clear that as we get these numbers in, we get them live sometimes from a polling site. Those numbers have not necessarily been fed into the system yet that we have in the wall as we go through. But if you just come out, take a look at it. Again, very early on in the night, but we're starting to fill in the colors here. So far, one town Sanders, one town Buttigieg, one town Klobuchar, leading. We got a lot of counting to do.
Is it surprising those 2 wards, Concord and Dover, not too far away from each other, they're voting differently in those 2 wards?
Well, you raise a great point. We should get this out early. This is a crowded field. This is many candidates. This is, as David Chalian said in the exit polls, a race that broke really late. Klobuchar had that good debate Friday night. Buttigieg had the bounce out of Iowa. Sanders is the known entity. What would happen, right? Biden and Warren more established. Would they lose support to the newcomers, Buttigieg and Klobuchar, for the most part? If you go back in time and look, now we see more votes coming in up here. Another township coming in with Sanders in a lead up here in Thornton. Relatively small. Look at the 0.2% of the state population up there. But if you see Senator Sanders pulling up some votes there, just want to go back a little bit just to show you something. When you have more candidates in the race, look at the margins. Go back to 2016. These were blowouts. Sanders ran it up in the state against Secretary Clinton. But 4 years ago, you had two candidates, you have bigger margins. One of the challenges for Senator Sanders this time, he's a known face, he's expected to win because it's next door and because he won there last time, is what does he do with the margins? You see these small Klobuchar townships up here, that's the midnight vote. That's Dixville Notch, that's Hart's location there, and you see these other votes coming in. So is it different? Again, you're going to come over here. This is Dover. You know, very early on, Sanders with 40%, 41% to 20% there. If you go back in time and look at it, again, this was a blowout in the two-candidate race. But Dana was talking about this earlier. You'd go to a rally in New Hampshire with these voters, especially late in the campaign. They were anguished. They agree they want to beat Trump, but they were all over the place. You had liberals at Buttigieg events, you had more moderates at other events, and they were trying to figure this out. The more crowded race in the early results, we're seeing it play out. It was a tough choice for New Hampshire Democrats, and the early results play that out.
This is 2% of the vote now in. Bernie Sanders, Amy Klobuchar, very close to each other. The numbers will be coming in much more quickly, much more right after this.